Right, I'd like to welcome you all to this auditorium session, and I'd also like to welcome Stijn Hekroot, who's come to speak to us all in connection with management fundamentals. As you know, since March, we've been focusing on the four core cornerstones that we need to work on to make ourselves more successful, to enable ourselves to serve our customers even better. And over the various months, we've been focusing on each one of those. And the focus for November is the fourth of those cornerstones being management fundamentals. And one of the initiatives that we decided to do was to invite somebody to come and talk to us around that subject. As you know, we've made the distinction between leadership and management. Leadership to inspire people towards a vision and to enable them to fulfill their potential, and then management to focus on getting the work done, because obviously that's very important to us, particularly when it comes to serving our customers. And that's going to be the focus of the talk this morning. I'd like to just read you some information about Stijn so that you have an idea of his background and his level and his expertise in this area. He's an entrepreneurial business leader who's actively involved in developing businesses across Africa. And the industries that he's involved in include retail, financial, manufacturing, training, export and import, agriculture, construction, and also some smaller ones. And he's dedicated himself to developing the African continent. He's also an academic, and he lectures part-time at a number of institutions, the Business School of the Netherlands in the Sudan, the Da Vinci Institute in Gauteng, the University of Stellenbosch Business School across the way, and also the Institute for Futures Research in Stellenbosch. He's also a writer, and he writes for the African.org, which is an African investor magazine, which is sponsored by the Institute for Security Studies at the University of Pretoria. So we're very privileged to have Stijn come to join us this morning and share some of his insights with us. After the talk, there will be an opportunity to ask him questions, and Barry will bring this microphone if you could wait, because we're recording this for people who aren't able to join us. So I'd like to welcome Stijn up to the front. Stijn, thank you very much indeed for coming, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Andy, for those words of welcome. They sent me quite a bit of information before today to brief me on the talk, but one thing that they didn't tell me is that it's Casual Friday. So, don't I look the idiot. But anyway, nonetheless, thank you for that. I got quite a bit of information in terms of Metropolitan, where you are at this stage in terms of the development program, insofar as the cornerstones is concerned that Andy referred to. Did a little bit of research on the organization, have worked with the organization before in a different capacity, and then also have worked with a number of your competitors in the industry, not just locally in South Africa, but also on the continent, elsewhere in other countries. And what I've done is I've tried to draw a correlation between some of the industries that we are more familiar with in our everyday lives, and then bring some of those learning lessons into Metropolitan, and hence focusing on specifically management and making that distinction between management and leadership, as Andy correctly pointed out. So that's what my talk is about today, talking about management, specifically talking about planning, so-called organizing, and then also controlling and evaluating. Now, before I continue, let me just say that those steps, insofar as management is concerned, is not restricted to management. We do it in our everyday life. Who of you are going away at the end of the year on holiday? Hands? Have you planned your holiday? You started organizing for it? And probably on your way back, you're gonna, if you go with your partner, husband, wife, I don't know whether you're married, but you're gonna talk to your partner and say, well, what was it like? We're gonna go again next year, we're gonna do it differently. And while you're there, if you have kids, controlling is sort of something that you do all the time. Agreed? Okay, so those principles is not something that's restricted to the field of management. As a matter of fact, management got those traits from the everyday life. Okay, that theory followed on practice. Most theory follows on practice. The apple fell from the tree first, and only afterwards Newton came and he said, this is the theory, insofar as gravity is concerned. Okay, so take the Nicky out of management. Don't think it's something out there. It's something you do in your everyday life. Even if you're just going to go out tonight and have some fun because it's a Friday evening, you've probably planned it already. You're organizing. phoning your friends. If you're going to go into town and you don't want to drink and drive, you've already arranged for some transport, I assume. And tomorrow morning, you're going to phone up your mate and say, what an evening. So we go again. What was it like? So it's something that we do in our everyday life. However, there's a difference between having a drink on a Friday evening and managing for performance and managing for competitiveness in an organization. It becomes a little bit more tricky. Andy specifically referred to directing people to do what they're supposed to do, and a lot of times that's challenging. Why? Why do you think it's challenging to direct people in terms of what they're supposed to do? Any ideas? Do you like it? Do you like to be directed? Who likes it to be directed? To be told what to do, how to do it. We don't really like it, do we? It's because we don't like it, we normally don't like doing it either. And so it's difficult in an organization to be the manager, because a lot of times you need to do things which you don't particularly like. And you also know that people don't particularly like it. The challenge, however, is you're getting measured on that. So you don't really have a choice. If you don't manage, and your management appraisal will show that, and then you're not a good manager. And then you go downwards as opposed to upwards. So we're sitting with a bit of a dichotomy. So what we try and do in terms of management planning, controlling, evaluating, measuring, organizing, is we're trying to put forward in management science models that works for both parties. Models that works for the manager that needs to manage, and also for those who need to be managed, so that they can understand what it's all about. Now let me ask you this. Let's do a little bit of a comparison in terms of retail. Where do you win retail? If you're a retailer, do you win retail in the office, or do you win it in the store? I can see, are you blowing a kiss or are you saying store? Where do we win it? In the store, okay? Not in the office. If you go and buy something at a store, what are the things that upset you most? Who can tell me? Give me an example. Something's got to be available. Okay, so the product's got to be there. What else? What upsets you? What irritates you? Poor service. Well, define poor service. There's no one around to help me. So I phone into the call center of Metropolitan, and there's this machine on the other side. There's nobody home. Lights are on, but nobody's there. What else irritates you or frustrates you? Long queues. Okay, so I got to wait until I get to the front, until finally it's my turn. Funny if you think about it, retail is one of the few areas in the world where we wait in excessive time to spend our money. It's weird, huh? Think about it. If you think about Metropolitan, think about your customers. Do you think the kind of things that we mentioned here now, poor service, having to wait long, nobody home, not having the right products, do you think they experience a similar type of irritations and frustrations from time to time? Yes, no? Yeah, of course. Okay? It's common. It's common in all industries. The question is, how do we fix it? Do we fix it by means of leadership? Or do we fix it by means of management? Or do we fix it by means of a combination of the two? What do you say? Who says it needs to be fixed by leadership? Hands. Chicken. Who says it needs to be fixed by management? Hands. You've been briefed before the time. Okay, so I assume that everybody here says it needs to be fixed by a combination of both. All right? Well, let me ask it to you a little bit differently then. What would you say, what is the most effective cure, do you think? If, again, you had to choose between leadership and management, what do you think is the most effective cure? Yes, we're going to use a combination of both, but if I had to rate it, I have to fix long queues, for instance. Management. It's a practical thing. Eh? Yes, the leadership's there, but it's a practical thing. I can solve it. I can take the individual queues out, make one long queue, put TVs there, put suites there to irritate the parents and keep the kids happy. There's all sorts of things I can do, put processes into place, because ultimately what I want to do is I want to enhance the experience of the customer. I cannot always give the customer what the customer wants. It's rule number one of management. Unfortunately, even if I want to, sometimes if you go to a Pick and Pay on a Saturday morning, it's just impossible for me to, once my trolley is loaded, be at the till immediately. There's no solution for that right now. So there's other things I need to do. It's not going to help if Raymond Ackerman stands on a box there, one side of the store, and delivers this message of leadership and vision and where he's taking the organization, and I'm standing here with my trolley. I just want to get the hell out of here. So management, okay? And we need to understand when to use and when to apply what. I want to add to Andy's definition of leadership, or distinction really between leadership and management. I know he said it, but I want to read it out for you because I've taken this from one of the documents that he's given me. And he makes the distinction between the two by stating that where leadership refers to inspiring people, influencing them to reach their full potential, to reach a common goal in the best possible way, management has the role of controlling the flow of work, directing people to get the work done, and ensuring that things happen correctly, and focusing on the fundamentals of work so that the business runs effectively. I'm going to come back to that distinction. I agree with that distinction. I'm going to come back to that distinction and then build on it because, as we've now agreed, is we need both, but sometimes management is the more effective one in terms of the challenge that we face. 4 concepts that I quickly want to talk about this morning. The first is this interrelationship and interdependence between leadership and management. The second is the concept that competitive ability is an operational activity that lies in the realm of management. That's the second concept. The third concept is that I need to plan, organize, control, and evaluate for that competitiveness, always taking the cue from the customer. And then the fourth concept is aligning the movement of funds, information, and my product and service flow in the organization to ultimately achieve competitive success and what we call supply chain effectiveness or efficiency. Now, I've learned over the years the easiest way to understand this difference between management and leadership is to contextualize it, to draw a picture. Up there on the board is a picture. It's a picture of Metropolitan drawn as a system in the systems thinking paradigm. Now, I'm not going to go all academic on you this morning. That's not the purpose of the exercise. But you need to see where leadership fits into the organization and where management fits into the organization so that you can understand the importance of management. The top part of the circle there, I have an ethos and an aims. Plain language, I have values in the organization, which is contained in the ethos, and I have some sort of a direction in the organization, a vision and a mission. That's contained in the aims. It's the top part. Bottom part, you'll see I have structures and I have processes and activities. That's where I do things in the organization. It's known as the physical reality, the doing part of the organization. In the middle there, I have governance. Essentially, the purpose of governance is to take all the strategic input, this vision, the leadership, the values, all those type of things, and implement it into the structure of the organization and make it happen through processes and activities. So immediately you can see the distinction where leadership is more contained to the upper, so-called upper part of the circle. Management is more on the lower part of the circle. And upper and lower not having any reference to important or not important. Then I have a number of resources over there. There's only 4 resources I have in the organization as a manager. Can you tell me what that is? What do you have as resources as a manager? People? Money? Time? Information? And I do all of that in an infrastructure. Those are the only resources that I have. So the manager needs to take resources over there and apply it through the structure processes to ultimately achieve the goal of the organization. I do this in an environment, contextual and transactional. Big words, don't worry about it. Contextual simply means there's factors out there that I can't control. Did the interest rate go up or down? Can we control it? No, we can't. It's a contextual factor. Okay, so the only thing that we can do as management against that is we can react to that. Transactional, that's your customers, your suppliers. So you have a little bit more influence over them. Typically, you will build a business model around your transactional stakeholders and have some sort of flexibility to react to that contextual environment. Right. That's the difference between the two. Now let's look at the first principle, the first concept that I want to talk about, this interdependence between management and leadership. If you take the circle and you cut it in two, the top part is the so-called conceptual reality. Again, academic jargon. It's where I think. I'm going to say something very controversial here, right? That's where I think, that's where I make plans. It's there, where I craft my strategy in the organization. Down here, I have the physical reality. That's where I do, right? In the structure, certain processes and activities flow. That's where management sits. Now I'm going to be bold and say that there's, or let me ask you rather, let me not put my foot into it. If you had to look at the competitiveness of Metropolitan being a competitive organization, where would you say does that competitiveness, where does it reside? Where does it lie? Does it lie in the top part of the circle or does it lie in the bottom part of the circle? Who says top? It's okay, I won't tell. Who says top part? Who says bottom? Who's entirely not sure? Okay, well done. Yes, there's a combination once again, but ladies and gentlemen, competitive ability of an organization lies in the managerial realm. It lies in where I do things, not in the planning side. Strategy is simple, okay? Don't let the consultants bluff you. It's a very easy thing to know what a strategy is. You just need to do what? How do I determine my strategy? If you had to start your business tomorrow, how would you figure out what your strategy needs to be? What would be the first step? But how would I know what to plan for? Scan the market. Okay, go and talk to your customer. They're going to say to you, "Hop, we want pink lollipops." And you're going to go, "Let's give them that." Strategy. Simple. Can I do it? Okay, so the competitive ability lies in the managerial realm. That's the first thing that you need to understand today. That's the interrelatedness between these two components. Now, why do I say the competitiveness of Metropolitan lies in the managerial realm? I say that because that's where you're being measured. Measured by who? By the market. The market determines whether you're competitive or not. Not your boss, not the CEO, not the supervisor, the market. The market ultimately decides, yes, you're competitive now, I like what you're giving me, so therefore I'm going to come back, spend some more money on you. Now look at the distinct difference between the two. The leadership component, top half, ultimately contains the intent of the organization. It's what the organization wants to do. The bottom part contains the behavior of the organization. It's what the customer experiences of the organization. And a lot of times, there's a disconnect between the two. The challenge of management is to bring the two as close as possible to one another. Now, this is difficult in organizations because it's very true to people as well. I think I told a story to Andy and to Lucille during our briefing. About 6-7 weeks ago, I had my school, my son is 10 years old and was playing a hockey tournament, so he invited me over to go there. I didn't go, it was a Saturday. While I was sitting at the office working on the Saturday, I was justifying my decision by saying, I can't go, and it's a good thing that I'm working.